Terror. A trait harnessed by few, but feared by many. Learning to wield the power of terror at the right moment could bring a swift end to your foes. So with this tactic, we'll look at an effective way that you can inject terror into your enemies, more so than the jiggling of a giant's stomach. That is not sexy. Before we get to it though, let's make sure we understand the difference between fear and terror. Any unit with either ability will have it marked on their unit card. The fear trait will cause a constant -10 leadership debuff to any unit within range. This is great for getting rid of the enemy just that little bit sooner, especially if they have low leadership anyway. Terror works slightly differently. It has a chance to instantly rout whatever unit it comes into contact with, provided its leadership is low enough. So while it won't directly affect their leadership in terms of numbers, it basically has a chance to completely obliterate your target's leadership in seconds. So let me give you this in a controlled example first of all. I'm going to demonstrate this with the Empire to show that it really can work with any faction, because the Empire don't really have too many fear or terror causing units. I've got 4 units of Flagellants charging towards 4 units of Chaos Warriors. Now while Flagellants are great at holding because they are unbreakable, they're never going to beat Chaos Warriors in a one-on-one. They don't have the armor piercing, they don't have any armor themselves, so it's a fight that they will inevitably lose. To even the odds a bit though and help with the damage, I'm going to send in some Demigryphs, the non-halberd variety, who are good at sticking in melee and doing some damage to heavily armoured units. So I've got them in to at least 2 of those units to help them out. The Demigryphs also have fear, which is going to be a nice added touch to this tactic. But all this is merely a setup for our secret weapon, which in this case is going to be a wizard on a hippogriff, which causes fear and terror. I think this tactic is ideally performed with heavy mass flying units. But faster heavy mass land units are fully capable of this as well. Dragon Ogres, Steam Tanks, Arachnaroks. But anyway, now these units have been fighting for a while, we're looking for one with low enough leadership for us to inject our terror into. These Chaos Warriors on the end here are looking pretty beaten down. They've gone down to 32 leadership. That is just in the sweet spot for our terror attack. I'm going to bring in my Hippogriff here for a nice rear attack on these Chaos Warriors, and you'll see they don't waver. They just instantly rout. Gone. No thinking about it, they just run away. So there's a combination of things going on here. I've got the fear debuff coming from the Demigryphs or the Hippogriff. I've got the attacked in the rear leadership penalty coming from the Hippogriff. And then I've got that terror when their leadership is really low. And you can see here as well, I've kept my Flagellants chasing down these boys. They are going to come back after a few seconds from that terror. But while they were running away, my boys would have been chasing after them, trying to bash their heads in, doing that extra damage, keeping them on the back foot. And that unit is going to be well and truly done for. So that's one down. Now we can look for a new target. This unit here got about 30 leadership, so that's a good target to go for. So it seems when they get to about 30 to 40 leadership or less is the best time to try and execute this tactic. This unit here has got 52. This unit's got 57 leadership, so they're not quite ready to be taken care of yet. But this unit is ready to go, so we're going to fly down on this one. And we shall see. Instant rout. There we go. Only takes a couple of seconds and they are gone. We can do the same thing with our Flagellants, get them to chase them off, make sure they don't come back, and even if they do, they'll take a fair bit of damage. We can now move on with the Demigryphs to try and help out the other 2 units. You see that first unit's completely gone now. They've been chased off by my Flagellants completely. But these boys are running for the hills. I've got my Demigryph stuck into this unit. That should help bring their leadership down. Down to about 44 now. Maybe a little bit high, but we're going to go for it anyway. See if we can get them. We're going to fly in and we're going to get them. So it took a little bit longer because of their higher leadership, but ultimately they fell victim to the terror. So now we can move on to the last unit, get a little bit of a rear charge on these boys. They are pretty worn down. Their leadership nice and low now. Easy prey for our terror-causing Hippogriff. And you'll see they rout very quickly. So this tactic allows us to charge in, much like a shock cavalry and perhaps a hammer and anvil situation. We charge in, inject the terror into our enemy and get the hell out of there. Flying units are generally the best for this. Big heavy mass flying units like Hippogriffs and stuff, dragons. Because they have an easy time escaping and they're hard to catch and they can just fly over everything to get around, it makes them the best choice for this tactic. And like I said, fast heavy land units can do the same thing. Oh, Hippogriff dance, why not? So there you have your terror injection. Now, it's all well and good that that works in a controlled situation, but can it be used in actual warfare? Well, of course it damn can. In some cases, you may have other flying units to compete with and you have to get rid of them. Skirmishers are of course a threat to you, so at the start of the battle, when everyone's leadership is high and no one's really that susceptible to terror, you're going to be best off looking for vulnerable units to take care of and trying to gain the upper hand in air superiority. Eventually though, the time will come when leadership is running low for certain units, and you can of course fly in, drop your terrifying attack to scare the enemy off, and then let your infantry chase them down and beat the crap out of them while you fly away and look for a new target. Of course, do remember though that if the enemy's leadership is a little bit higher than 30 or 40, it may take a little bit longer to get rid of them. Provided you look after your flying units though, if you can get to the late game with your flying units in good condition, they can be very devastating to those low leadership end of battle units. This tactic does require a fair amount of micromanagement because you've not only got to keep track of your flying units and keep them alive and keep them moving, you've got to keep track of enemy leadership and who's going to be a target for you. And ultimately, you can build entire armies around this sort of tactic. Terror and fear builds are a common thing and can be very, very powerful. As I said at the beginning, really any army can pull this off, as they all have fear or fear and terror causing units. Some armies of course have more than others, but it really only takes one unit to spread fear around. For example, as the Wood Elves here, I've got a front line of Eternal Guard. I've also got with them one unit of Dryads. Dryads cause fear, they're going to spread it to all the nearby units, and that's probably 3 or 4 units that they're going to spread their fear onto. And against someone like the Greenskins, that is going to be very, very useful because the Greenskins have fairly low leadership anyway. So when I bring down my terror causing unit, in this case a Forest Dragon, they're not going to stick around too long because of their fear and terror infused souls. So do be aware of who you try this on. Not every faction is susceptible to fear and terror. Any unit that causes fear or terror is immune to that ability. So someone like the Vampires, who pretty much all cause fear, aren't going to be affected by your fear abilities. Or a lot of the Beastmen have immunities to psychology, at least when their leadership is higher. So before you decide to bring this, just ask yourself, is the enemy susceptible? So there you have a rather violent use of the fear and terror abilities. I hope you've enjoyed this and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the terrifying future.